What's the quickest way to become a cohesive group at the table? I'm going to show you an example from a game, and then I'll teach you how to do it too. Build on a pattern. Start as one and then split off. I saw this last time I ran a game. I chose to do this game at the last minute and my players were simply phenomenal. Only 2 of them were able to meet each other before the game started, so chemistry was uncertain, but they all immediately bonded together by getting onto the same point of view. It all started with the first decision made by M as Viv.
Viv is perpetually late. So she is probably half walking, half running down the street towards the club to burst in the doors at the last minute. Ah, shit, I forgot the right one. We're not reading Mysteries of the Heart tonight, are we?
This is a very strong move, as Viv shows up and isn't even sure what book the book club they're in is supposed to be reading. She puts the character in the very relatable place of, I screwed up. Most people have forgotten something or messed up in some way, especially when it comes to homework, so we can connect to her. This also shows us that the character is very confident as well. She's fessing up, not trying to hide it, bursting through the door and exclaiming it. Next we go to Nate, playing Douglas.
I imagine Douglas is doing is they're already at the club, so before Viv walked in, they're probably just sitting down and there's like 5 stack of books, like just 5 on top of one another on a table right next to them. And I'm having that wonderful decision-making problem of just being like, I can't figure out which one to read next, and I don't know which one we were supposed to read either. So when Viv walks in with saying the wrong book, I'm like, oh, thank God it's not just me.
Great.
So we've established a possible pattern now. 2 of our group have committed to the I don't know what book we're supposed to read point of view, but for different reasons. I want to stress the importance of that, because if Douglas had forgotten in the same way, it'd feel like he was simply copying Viv, which isn't terrible, but I think we all have an urge to be different, to be unique. So find your own distinct twist on the point of view. It's not about what the result is, but how you get there. Viv was a whirlwind of chaos, while Douglas is perhaps a little over-prepared, with too many books to choose from at the ready to remember which one to focus on. Additionally, Douglas has a relatable emotion as well. When you're not sure, and you're worried about being wrong, it's kinda nice to see someone else in the same position, someone else who forgot. Misery loves company, and we can relate to that. Next we go to Caitlin playing Arthur.
Arthur, like waking up with a start from a nap, drool caked on her cheek. Need to get to the bookmarks! Grabs her cane and remembers before she goes out the door the book. She turns around to grab it and sees 2 books sitting on the desk. Was it Mysteries of the Heart or The Philanderer's Dilemma? I'm not. She takes both of them, tucks them under her arm, and tries to read them as she walks to club, just to flip through and get like bullet points to have both on hand.
Great. Excellent.
Now the pattern is set. 3 of our group don't know which book to read. 3 of our 4 are unsure, but have taken to this in fresh ways. Arthur, fresh off a nap in her old age, wakes up, sees both books that she hasn't read yet, grabs them both like how Douglas had more than one book, but tries to get a quick summary in before arriving, hoping that your speedy skimming of the material will result in being able to fake it, to deceive the discerning eye. I remember times arriving in class, noticing that there's a quiz that I forgot, and trying to do the same thing. Again, relatable, and continuing to build. How about Froglet, last of our group? Will we find salvation there?
Maybe we'll find the answer. Fingers crossed. As we jump over to Froglet. Does Froglet have a book? Do they have any idea of which is the right one?
I imagine that Froglet is just dressed very practical, is a pretty like straightforward person. So he likes frogs, so clothes that he can look for frogs in. So I guess maybe a decent pair of shorts, decent shirt, nothing too fancy. His quirkiness I see kind of show up in his appearance with his hair. I imagine that he keeps himself very bald because he wants to feel the rain like the frogs do. So it's about hair possible on his head. And he walks in holding a frog, not a book. Like, I haven't seen this one in this area in a few months. I think this is great for the ecosystem. There's no book. Just a frog.
Phenomenal. I want to give Milo credit here. He recognized the pattern and was able to find a clever way to subvert it as Froglet. Simply put, Viv forgot the book and brought a book. Douglas forgot the book but brought 5. It had to be among his stack, right? Arthur forgot to read and is desperately skimming along her way. Froglet brought a frog. No book at all. He realized the pattern, the setup, and was able to deliver a punchline by going to the extreme end of not having the right book, not having a book at all. There's also something to be said about a good drum roll, because Froglet's introduction didn't answer the question posed by me as the GM, at least not immediately. We sat in suspense, on the edge of our seats. Every word, every moment built that tension, which was then released when he said,
There's no book. Just a frog.
and that set the tone. With the characters introduced, they all came together immediately and were on the same page, which allowed them, as the game progressed, to keep working together. Now, don't worry about subverting just yet. If you're jumping into a game and aren't sure how to get in with the squad, follow someone. Take the same initial point of view, but make it a little bit different. Find a different angle to support that point of view. So if the first person is jumping into action to save the king, because they're a knight and they have to protect the kingdom, maybe you can jump into action to protect the king. And perhaps your reason is that you want the king on your side, because you want a friend in high places. And tell that to the table, because now you're connected as far as the ends, but not necessarily for your justifications. If someone wants to subvert at the end with their introduction, then by all means. Just make sure you can do it in a fun way that isn't in full opposition to the squad. But you know what would also be subversive? If you could leave a like, a comment, subscribe. It really helps me out. How do you practice something like this though? Here's where my improv instruction kicks in. We have an old game called Connect the Dots. Someone starts by becoming something in the picture. I'm Salt. And then other people come in and connect to that. You're trying to establish some semblance of a pattern or portrait of a moment. For example, what connects to salt? We could go with this. I'm salt. I'm pepper. I'm ketchup. I'm artificial sweeteners. In which case the pattern is condiments you might find on a table in a restaurant. We could also do this. I'm salt. I'm sugar. I'm cornstarch. I'm cocaine. In which case the pattern is white powders. Or even, I'm salt. I'm anger. I'm an argument that's going nowhere. I'm the internet. In which case the pattern is sort of stated. We're connecting and tying the ideas together, making a cohesive picture with the internet. You can do this on your own, or if you want a bigger challenge, do it with someone else. Build a pattern with them, because you can't predict what they're going to say, how they're going to connect to your idea, while the two of you are trying to work together to build a clear picture. Now, once you've completed a run and you've got a set of elements, pick one and keep it. Try to pick the more broad one so you can connect different ideas to it, so we're not painting the same picture every time. Alright, connect the dots. I'm gonna keep anger. I'm anger. I'm fear. I'm sadness. I'm a gamer. And so on and so forth. Sometimes we keep building the ideas. Sometimes we find something that ties it all together. And sometimes we find a combo breaker. The element, like how Froglet brought a frog instead of a book, that breaks the pattern in a way that makes sense. When you do that, you can find a possible joke, possible humor to inject in here. Just don't do it too soon, because then you don't have many places to go after that. So hopefully that helps y'all. If it did, leave a like, subscribe, comment. It really helps me out. But until next time, stay safe and take care.